In the third part of tonight's class, we went into the practical details, your Rosh Hashana shopping list, what we're eating, when we're eating it, why we're eating it, and many other details of the holiday. Anyone else have something something on their minds or something they can enhance or hold back or add in a good behavior?
I have a few things I'm working on. One of them, I will not have a sip from somebody else's non-kosher champagne, because I was doing it. So I started thinking about it. It just seemed like such a little things. It just a taste, but it leads to more. You know what I mean? It's not such an innocent thing. So it's a little thing, but I started saying, please don't offer it to me. I
don't need these temptations. Stop being generous with your champagne.
Yeah.
I think kosher champagne exists too.
I know, but somebody doesn't like, the person doesn't like kosher champagne. So.
Well, that's great, because what we take inside of ourselves becomes us. Literally, kosher becomes your very body. The food you eat becomes you. So it's really definitely a very good place to be very careful with.
One of the things I worked since last Yom Kippur, and I think I was successful, during pandemic, I started tasting non-kosher dairy, and then I made a repentance, and going forward, I was pretty successful with that.
Every time you enhance kosher, you're really changing yourself in a very deep way, because your food is you. And everyone, however they can add and only buying foods that are kosher or anything like that it sensitizes us to God, because if we're eating not kosher food, we're making our body desensitized. So someone just asked, but she doesn't want to make a commitment, because what if she doesn't live up to it? So I understand that question. Obviously, I think we all understand that question. And when we try and we're committing to God, God helps us and gives us the strength to carry us through. It's like the bigger the vessel, the more God can fill it. So when you say God, but I don't mean like, a child who's promising something that you're never going to do, and yeah, whatever, you promise the world, I'll always listen to my parent. Okay, well, nice, whatever. But as an adult, as a conscious adult, like let's take, Rivka's example, I am going to stop drinking this not kosher wine. She knows what it means, and she knows the situation she's in, and she knows it's difficult for her. And yes, maybe she will have stocked in her wine cabinet a kosher one, so whenever she's offered non-kosher, she'll say, oh, I'm going to pour myself a glass of kosher. Here, cheers. You can drink my kosher wine. You don't? I'll drink mine. You drink yours. She'll plan, she'll plot, then she's human. But when we make that commitment to God, we're opening up for him like a vehicle, a vessel, a place. We're making a place for him in our heart, in our body. And the more space we make, the more he can fill that. So it's like anything, the bigger your vision is, the more God can give you, because the more you're giving him space to be in your life. Now, that doesn't mean you don't have to work hard sometimes. Of course, we work hard to keep our commitments, and I make lots of commitments and I work hard to keep them. And I mess up sometimes. And every time I mess up, I feel bad and I redouble my commitment. If I was doing something along the lines of Rivka, and let's say I hadn't bought the kosher champagne, but I just made this commitment to myself not to drink the not kosher one, and I slipped, I would say, that's it. I'm going to have 2 bottles of kosher champagne in my house. And I'm going to make sure if I'm in that situation, my glass is going to be full. I'm not going there. So when I mess up, and I do mess up sometimes, and then I commit more deeply. So we like 1 step backwards, 2 steps forward. And I keep it on paper, and I review my papers regularly to always remember what I'm committing, because I could forget. I make a lot of commitments to God. And I really, really, really do feel that he's that so many times there's so much good he wants to give us, and he's just waiting for us to make that movement toward him. And we just want to be close to him. And this is how we're so blessed that we can be so close. Me and God could be so close. That's such a gift. Anyone else have any things they were thinking of they would want to share in terms of how they could add in their relationship, adding in the positive, adding in taking away something, adding in a good behavior?
I don't know why, but I always, since I started to become observant, I always concentrate on, how should I say it, not to transgress. And I know, like you were explaining, that positive commandments are as important as negative. But since I started and everything I was reading, I still gravitate towards not to transgress. And then next one is a positive. You know what I mean?
I totally understand what you mean. It could be the nature of your soul. It could be how you were educated. A lot of people, it's the opposite. A lot of people, they start by doing. They're lighting Shabbos candles for God. They're putting on tefillin for God. They're giving charity for God. And as they do more and more good, then they like enough times. I remember Chava's story. Chav, you remember when you shared with us how you were lighting the Shabbos candles? It was like the second week, and then you were driving to the movies and had that crash. And it was a very strong message of like, yeah, you started by, I mean, you were doing the norm, you know, you were adding good and feeling all godliness, and then zipping in your car to the movies, and like God is like, hello, what are you doing? What are you doing? So that's, I think many people have that road of adding in good, and as they add in good, they become sensitized to also stop transgressing. But it could be your soul, it could be the education, it could be a bit of both. So what I didn't do in this class that I normally do, and I was thinking we would do it at the end, in the end now it's already 9:15, but I'm just going to quickly, if someone has to get off, I understand, but I did want to go through some of just the practical details of the day that we usually go through on an annual basis, but just to remind everyone, these are like sort of basic things. I'm going to go through them. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. So we make a special blessing when we light the candles. It's not the normal blessing for the Shabbos. It's not the normal blessing for the holiday. It's a special blessing for Rosh Hashana, L'hadlik ner shel Yom HaZikaron. You're not going to remember that. You're not going to write it down now. Just before the holiday, you could look it up. You could ask me. L'hadlik ner, not L'hadlik ner shel Shabbos Kodesh, not L'hadlik ner shel Yontif, L'hadlik ner shel Yom HaZikaron, and Shechianu, the Shechianu blessing, which we're used to saying on the holidays. On the second night, of course, that's when we have our question, do we make a Shechianu, yes or no? And the reason is because the sages say that in a sense, the 2 days of Rosh Hashanah are one long day. So how could we make a Shechianu? We're still part of day one, but maybe not, but maybe yes. So of course, the way we get around that, the sages told us, is to have a new fruit on the table. So when you go shopping, or when you send your husband shopping for Rosh Hashanah, you want to make sure you get honey. You want to make sure you get apples. You want to make sure you get pomegranate. And you want to make sure you get a new fruit. And you want to make sure you get the head of a fish or a ram. I have both. So make sure you have honey. Make sure you have apples. Make sure you have pomegranates. Make sure you have new fruit. Make sure you have the head of a fish or the head of a ram. You could do many more things, but at least that for sure. So you're going to use that new fruit on the second night of Rosh Hashanah. You're going to have it on the table when you light the candles. Ideally, light the candles right before you eat. It's holidays, so you can light the candles late. It's not like Shabbos, you have to light the candles by a certain time. You're lighting them on a holiday. You don't strike a match. You light it from a pre-existing flame, and you can light the candles with a Shechianu, thinking about the new fruit that you have on the table. And then you or your husband make the Kiddush. If he's making it, he says Shechianu and also looks at the new fruit. If you're making it, you already made a Shechianu. Don't say it twice. And then you eat your new fruit without making a Shechianu, because your blessing on the candles, your Shechianu, your husband's blessing on the Kiddush, Shechianu, covered the fruit. So make sure you have a new fruit. A new fruit means a fruit you have not eaten this season, whatever is the duration of a season for that fruit. Of course, the second night, you cannot begin any preparation until nightfall, until candle lighting time. You can't heat up food. You can't set the table. You can't make a salad. You can't do anything before the night. We do not prepare from one day to the next. What else about food? Our challahs are round, ideally with raisins. If you don't like raisins, you don't have to have raisins in them. If you like raisins, have round raisins challah. The idea of round, of course, the cycle of life. The raisins, sweet. You dip the challah in honey. We want everything sweet, 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 sweet. If you don't like sweet, enjoy sweet on Rosh Hashanah. We dip the challah in honey from Rosh Hashanah through the last day of Sukkot, through Hoshana Rabbah, the last day of the cycle of judgment. On Rosh Hashanah, our year is written. On Yom Kippur, it's sealed. And on Hoshana Rabbah, the last day of Sukkot, the books are put away. So we really have 20-some days to try to make this great year. From Rosh Hashanah through Hoshana Rabbah, which I think is like the 21st day of the month, everything is very, very, very sweet. We have symbolic foods the first night. The symbolic foods we eat the first night, which is Sunday night. The apple dipped in honey, we eat it directly after the challah. We make a ha'etz on the apple, and then we say a prayer. You could say it in English. May it be your will to renew us for a good and sweet year. Again, that's the prayer. You make the ha'etz blessing, which is a blessing on a fruit. And then you say, may it be your will to renew us for a good and sweet year. Other foods we eat, we don't say a prayer before. We don't say a special blessing. But customarily, we eat the head of a fish or a ram. So we should be ahead. We eat the pomegranate. Pomegranate implies our merits. Usually we eat the pomegranate right after we eat the apple, same idea. And it's also traditional to make a carrot honey dip called simis. If you remember your grandparents making that, it's very sweet, carrots and honey. So it's sweet, a sweet new year. And carrots in Yiddish is the idea of merin, of more, of abundance, of multiplicity. We do not use nuts. We do not use seeds. We do not use vinegar or vinegar-based products. What else do I need to tell you, practically speaking?
Can we use onion when we cook?
Yes, you can use onions, you can use garlic, that's not a problem. If the pomegranate is a new fruit for you, you're going to eat a pomegranate with the apple. You can have the apple and honey and then the pomegranate. If for you a pomegranate's a new fruit, just have it on the table by the kiddush. And then the shechianu on the kiddush also covers the pomegranate. So you just make the ha'etz on your fruit, cover that. I think those are the basic food details. If anyone would like a machzor, Hebrew, English, and they would like me to bring one, they'd like to pick it up from my house, they're not going to be in a synagogue, let me know. I will bring one home for you. Also for Yom Kippur, I could bring one. But again, any synagogue you go to, I'm sure would have one translated. It's like any holiday in that you can't do creative work, similar to the Shabbos, but you can cook from a pre-existing flame and you can carry if you need it for the cooking. Also, we have in Rosh Hashanah the idea of going to a body of water. We have a special prayer. We're casting our sins in the water. We're getting rid of them. It's a special prayer. It's in the machzor. You have to go to a body of water that you assume has fish. If you cannot make it on Rosh Hashanah, you can go any day up to Yom Kippur to do this. Any questions on anything I just said? I know I went quickly through these ideas because I know I have taught them to you before, but of course it's a year later, so we could forget. Anyone has any questions on any of the practical food details I just said, or any of the other practical details of the day?
Can you please repeat regarding the prayer on the second day? So I have a new fruit, I have wine, I have challah. So I candle my candles and I do just regular, not holiday one, which is the same as yesterday, but I'm not doing shechianu.
No, you are doing shechianu.
Okay, I
say
do
the holiday blessing and shechianu. What you say the second night is exactly what you say the first night, both two blessings, Shel Yom HaZikaron and shechianu, and you're going to have a new fruit on the table, a fruit you have not eaten this season.
Understood. So, but you
and
said
then your husband or you will make the kiddush.
Yeah. Yes.
When you say your shechianu blessing, think of the fruit.
Okay.
Your husband says the shechianu by kiddush, he should look at the fruit.
Okay.
And then you're going to eat the new fruit and you're not saying a shechianu on it because you already said
Gotcha. Okay,
when you
that's
lit
what
the candles and when he made the
Okay.
kiddush.
That's when was my confused. So when I do shehecheyanu after, I look at my fruit, and he's doing kiddush and wine, and he looks at the fruit, and then we eat the fruit.
And we do
And
not say
then we-
shehecheyanu because we already said it. We just make
Right,
the blessing
right,
on the
right.
fruit ha'etz.
Right, correct. So do we need to do do we need to do ha'itz also?
Yes, you have to make a ha'etz on the fruit.
Okay, and then we eat challah.
Right, and then you're gonna
And then
wash
we
and eat the
start-
challah, exactly,
Okay.
just like a
Well,
regular
you
meal.
know what? I do have a question, and it's I never knew about this. Something about, so I had impressions that everything what has wheat and rye and I don't know, a couple others, we do hamotzi. But today I
Wheat,
hear,
rye, spelt, oats, and barley.
yes,
Wheat, rye, spelt, oats, and barley, flour from those grains is
right.
made into a dough and baked with water or
Oh.
hamotzi.
So then, okay, but if you have a cookie, which also made of, it's also flour, wheat flour, and it may have also water inside. I don't know, I'm just
So we're
hypothetically.
connecting the beginning of the class to the end of the
Yeah, I
class.
remember.
Because that's what
And
Rivka
that's-
asked me in the beginning. So if you made a cookie with wheat flour or barley flour or oat flour or spelt flour or rye flour, and the majority liquid is water, it's a hamotzi, you have a big problem. So don't make such a cookie. You should add enough other liquids. Like I'll tell you a practical example. When I make pancakes or waffles,
Yes.
okay? So when I make pancakes or waffles, I don't make it with milk because my utensils aren't dairy. They're not meat and not milk. They're what we call par. So I don't put milk in it. I put water. So
Mhm,
if
mhm.
I would make that pancake or waffle mixture with water, it would be hamotzi. I don't want to have to wash my hands and say, I don't want to say it's going to get messed up. So what I do when I make pancakes or waffles is I add eggs. You could add as many eggs as you want. It doesn't hurt the mixture. So an egg I've measured many times is a quarter of a cup. A regular extra large egg is a quarter of a cup. So if I have a cup of water, I'm going to make sure I put in 5 eggs. So then I have a cup and a quarter of egg to that 1 cup of water. So my pancakes or waffles are still mazonos.
Right, but if in another case, if you would not put water but milk, it would save
That's
you
fine
from.
because milk
Okay,
is
gotcha.
not a problem. It's water. Water
Water,
and
I see.
flour is creating the hamotzi issue. So if you don't want hamotzi, you don't want water. And if you have no choice, you need water, you want to add oil or egg, some fruit juice, some other liquid to be more than the water.
Mhm, mhm. Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
Is almond milk a good substitute for water?
Is almond milk water or is it not?
Substitute for water.
No, but what I'm saying is if you look in the ingredients of almond milk, a lot of these soy milk, almond milk are diluted with water. So you would have to check. If it's pure almond milk and they don't dilute it with water, yeah, it's fine. If it's diluted with water, then you have a problem because you don't know how much it's diluted. So you could probably check on the ingredients or call the company to see. But if it's pure almond milk, perfect, no problem. Exactly, great idea. For that matter, I want to ask this question because butter or margarine also liquefies. It becomes a liquid. So you could also count that in if you're making a calculation, was there enough liquid here that it's not hamotzi besides oil or eggs or vanilla extract or fruit juice or milk? You could look there also.
Interesting.
Any other questions? Everyone should have sorry, someone's gonna ask a question?
Done.
What's the difference between first night and second night?
Spiritually or practically?
When you say new fruit and shehecheyanu,
That's the second night, not the first night.
first night we don't say shehecheyanu?
First nights you say shehecheyanu, but you don't need the new fruit because we have no question on the shehecheyanu. Of course, it's new. It's a new holiday. So of course I'm making the shehecheyanu.
Okay, so if I never ate, what is it? Pomegranate since
I can't use it. So that's what I said. We eat the pomegranate the first night. In other words, the first night we eat what we call the signs for the new year.
Right, but
Apple and honey, the pomegranate, the head of the fish, the thymus.
Cyril, I haven't eaten pomegranate since last Rosh Hashanah.
So what you need to do, the best thing to do is when your husband makes Kiddush, have the pomegranate on the table. And when he says the Shechianu by Kiddush, you and him should have in mind the Shechianu of Kiddush covers the pomegranate
On the first night.
on the first night.
So, and then the same thing on the second night, just different fruit.
Right, but it can't be a pomegranate because that you ate the first night.
Okay, got it. So in my case, it will be the same thing, just a different fruit on the second night.
Exactly. The first night, you're gonna have the pomegranate because for you, it's a new fruit and you're gonna have it out by Kiddush and you and your husband are gonna think about it. And then you're not gonna make a Shechianu because it was covered by his Kiddush Shechianu. And you don't have to make a Ha'etz because it was covered by the apples Ha'etz. So you're gonna make no blessing at all and enjoy your pomegranate. The second night, you're gonna have some exotic fruit on the table and you're gonna think about it when you light the candles and he's gonna think about it when he says his Kiddush. And then again, you're just gonna make a Ha'etz and enjoy your sabras or your star fruit or whatever else you haven't eaten for quite a while. Now, it doesn't have to be exotic. If you haven't had a pear all season, you can put a pear on the table. It's fine. It just means something you haven't eaten all season.
What do you mean season?
The season of the fruit.
I don't know how long this
So
fruit is.
that's, so sometimes you have to, so if it's like Chava says, I haven't eaten a pomegranate since last Rosh Hashanah, so it's very easy for you to know. We would say now, again, the assumption would be, well, if I hadn't eaten it since last winter, it must be a new season. It's probably was harvested in the spring or in the summer. That's probably a new season. So that would generally be our assumption.
Okay.
Now, you cannot use dried fruit for this. Dried fruit is not considered significant enough, important enough for the blessing of Shechianu. So the most exotic fruit dried doesn't count. So don't use a dried fruit, use the real deal fruits. Anyone else? Any other practical questions? I hope everyone has a sweet year, a good year. I echo all of Chava's beautiful blessings from the beginning of the class. A meaningful year. I hope your Rosh Hashanah is the best ever, the most God-centered ever. And I hope you all should be blessed for a good year that you know is good, that you don't have to believe is good and trust is good and have a lot of faith is good, that you should see with your physical eyes and experience, God, thank you. This is good. And we should all be blessed. This is good, a good year. And a year of redemption, a year of Mashiach, when we won't have to work to stress and believe and convince ourselves. When we just see it, it's good. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.